Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, very small infants of indeterminate gender, thank you for returning to Final Boy Status. My name is Luke Haueter. I am one of three hosts that are here every episode. Actually, I can give myself a lower third card if I really want to. This is a visual joke. Doesn't apply to most of you that listen to this in a podcast medium, but there's also visually you can watch it on YouTube, so that's good for them. But no, it's another episode of Final Boy Status. We are psyched to be here. Season 3 is winding down. We have had a lot of fun this season, and we are very into ending strong. Here to give it a strong conclusion, a climax, if you will, are my friends and co-hosts. Say hi to Lanson Lappin and Adam Bone.
Hello.
What up? I like being the cause of this show's climax.
Oh, yes. Directly involved in the climax, my friend. Directly involved in that you direct the climax.
I direct it like a Spielberg film.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're just going to hold on this shot for a really long time. We know what's happening in frame is compelling. We don't need to cut away.
If we had Tom Hanks, this would really sell it.
God, he's
America's
so hard to
sweetheart.
track down. Ever since he got COVID, he's fine now, but he had COVID for a while there. Ever since then, real hard to get him to come out for these. You know,
He's a.
I have a secret. You want to know what my secret is?
What is it?
you're always angry.
You being it.
You being it?
See, this is the thing we don't know about. We're stuck in the dark ages over here, googling how to get Tom
Google.
Hanks on my podcast.
You gotta bing it.
Gotta bing it. Tom Hanks will be here next week, ladies and gentlemen. We're really excited about it.
Yep.
Yes.
No, okay. Well, for those of you out there who haven't heard our podcast before, welcome. Thank you for hanging out with us, telling some jokes, and having a good time. But of course, telling jokes may be the secret purpose of our podcast, but the overt public reason this podcast exists is to talk about horror movies, scary movies, and the stuff that happens in them. We do what you and your friends do. We watch horror movies, and then we have an intelligent and detailed discussion on how could we get out alive? How could we best the antagonist and live through the horror movie, survive to the end like so many people fail to? And this week, we have a wonderful movie we're going to talk about, a movie that I enjoy very thoroughly, chosen by our friend Lanson Lappin. Lanson, tell us about the movie, why you picked it, and give us a little description of what happens in this movie, if you would be
Absolutely. So we got a real treat for you. For this episode, we will be discussing the 1987 John McTiernan classic Predator. It's a movie.
Gets the musical stick.
It's the Predator.
Yeah, his famous theme music.
Oh, goodness. So Predator, for me, it's one of my favorites. It's just, all around a fun movie, something for everybody. It's a cheesy popcorn 80s movie, but also a great blend of action and horror. Arnold Schwarzenegger, it delivers some of the most classic lines and classic memes today. There's a lot to love about it, as well as on Hulu, they've just released the latest movie in the Predator franchise, Prey, which I actually watched a couple weeks ago. Very good. I recommend, if you guys are into that, to go watch it. Even if you haven't watched a Predator movie, it is a prequel. So don't feel like you have to watch the original Predator to know what's going on. It does a good job of just kind of being its own thing. So yes, the story of Predator is one in which a group of special operations commandos are dropped into the jungles of Central America, and they're tasked with a rescue mission. But what they don't know is there's also another being tasked with a different mission. This being an extraterrestrial, but not your friendly ET type. This is a trophy hunter, and the things that he makes trophies out of are men. So it is truly a story in which the hunter becomes the hunted.
What a great description of what goes down in this movie. This is a movie I've seen numerous times. I think most of them with Lance and Lappin, funny enough. We have a certain love for the Predator. It's a very intense creature. But now's the point in the podcast where we usually just spend a few minutes talking about the movie itself. We used to rate them. We no longer do that. We're just going to highlight some of the great parts of this movie. Maybe we'll mention a couple of the low lights as well, just so we give an accurate representation of what to expect from this movie. But now's the part where we just have fun talking about movies, which is something all three of us really love to. I mean, we're white guys on the internet. Talking about movies is like the one thing we're legally allowed to do. Question mark.
Yeah.
I think there's a law in place that as if you're a white guy, you have to talk about movies on the internet. I think. I'll have to double check that, but we're well within the realm of where we should be. But our friend Adam hasn't had much to say so far this episode. I want to start with him, give him a chance to open up about what he loves about 1987's Predator, directed by John McTiernan. I love that you threw that in there. Directed by John McTiernan, written by John and Jim Thomas, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, produced by... No, I'm just kidding. But
written by John Krasinski.
Wow.
God,
I didn't know that.
Crazy that he did a pass, honestly.
I know, right?
This was the first time I watched Predator, so I've seen the memes, I've seen the faces, I've heard the catchphrases, but I didn't see it as a whole thing. I think this is the reason I love movies, is you can kind of dissect its parts, but you don't really appreciate something until you see it all together. And this movie was really dumb, but I think there was a lot of. I think that's kind of why it's appealing, was because you really didn't have to think that hard. Arnold was just gonna tell you exactly what he was thinking, and there wasn't a lot that you had to figure out, and it was really fun. And there's a lot of blood, and it was just a good time. I really enjoyed it. Again, I hope I'm not overstating this point. It's not a thinker movie, but yeah, if you just want something playing while you're just chilling with the boys, want to enjoy yourself for a couple hours, it's a good time. Yeah, I don't know what else to say, because I feel like the problems I had are the things that came up where I was like, I don't know, did kind of add to the larger picture of camp and not taking it too seriously. So like Arnold's catchphrases, which you're like, all right, cool. It added to it. It brought you back to 87 and seeing his big muscles. What I will say is, I think because of that, I never really felt like there were a lot of stakes. I mean, people were dying a lot, and so I guess that there were stakes in that. You're like, yeah, everyone's gonna die, but maybe it wasn't that scary of a movie for me, but I didn't really think it had to be. It was just fun. What I will say, I loved the character design of the creature. I'd seen it with the mask on, and I knew like it looked like it had dreads and it had the little face thing. But then when it took off, I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty scary character design. So that was kind of new for me, and that added to the scariness, where I was like, that that is an ugly motherfucker. Like, if that thing was coming towards me, I'd be like, I would be scared. So maybe that, but yeah, it was good. Good choice. I liked it.
He gets a thumbs up from Adam, which is, hey, more than most movies. That's pretty good.
Yes.
Lanson, we all know you're a little bit biased as you did choose this movie, but if you were to highlight some things in the movie that you really love, and maybe in fairness, talk about some of the things that maybe could have been worked on a little more, where do you land, Lappin? Tell us about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Adam. This isn't a movie where you watch it and you're like, I need to rethink my life. Like, what is the meaning of existence? No, I mean, and it's really not trying to be.
No.
It really is. You have to take it within the context in which it was made. It's an 80s Arnie movie. It's not, so it's a lot of fun. Again, it's a little bit fun because I feel like you watch it and you're like, oh, it's going to be this type of movie. But then once the Predator shows up, you're kind of like, oh, this is different than what I thought it was going to be. Not saying that it's like going to win an Oscar, but it does a good job of kind of flipping the script a little bit.
Mm.
Again, the character design in this movie is beautiful. Just really, I mean, I don't think I have the words for it. Just incredible detail, incredible job by the production team. I think it's also funny to see just so many 80s icons that have kind of faded into obscurity, like Jesse Ventura comes into mind. Just like, that's Jesse Ventura. What the heck, man? What are you doing here?
There are kids out there that are going to watch this movie and be like, that's the guy from Mandalorian. Like, yeah, like that's their only frame of reference for Carl Weathers, which is so funny to me.
I know, right? Yeah. For a second, I thought we were talking about Jesse Ventura, and I was like, is he in
Yeah.
Mandalorian?
Yeah, you remember when he shows up and he's like, hey,
sexual
Mandalorian.
Tyrannosaurus is all around. But yeah, as far as like, I don't know, as far as critiques, I don't know that I have a ton. I mean, obviously some decisions, we'll get into it. Some things that are done are like, oh, well, that was cheesy, or that was kind of dumb to do, but we'll get into that later once we talk about choices. But the movie itself, I don't take it too seriously and have a good time with it every time I watch it. So that's my take on the movie.
Rock and roll. Gents, I'm coming in a little more prepared than usual. I wrote down ahead of time bullet points of like, here's what you're going to say you like about the movie. Here are the things you're going to criticize in the movie, and then you're going to move on. Because I always talk about it for way too long, so I had to write it out ahead of time. Just to keep it simple, and I think I actually found things that you guys didn't mention. There's something Lanson alluded to, is that this is sort of two movies. It sort of lulls you into thinking this will be your standard Arnold Schwarzenegger shoot 'em up movie, and then it turns into a slasher with a extraterrestrial monster, which I think is really cool. Honestly, the first half of this movie, I kind of fade in and out whenever I watch it. It's kind of not the strongest plot. There's tension there in that they're being lied to and they don't know it, and then the realization that they've been lied to is huge, and the mystery of why were the Green Berets sent in ahead of them? Why did they go missing, and why were they killed? So there's enough tension in the first little part of this movie to keep you intrigued, but definitely in terms of like action movies can get a little boring. So I do fade out a little bit for the first half, but then as soon as the Predator shows up, you're loving it. So I think, really the tension and suspense in this movie, I think it works so well because of three things I'm going to mention. You have to buy that these men are total badasses. You have to buy that they are the best in the world at what they do. And honestly, I actually buy it. I think they're tough, they're mean, their masculinity is overwhelmingly toxic. They got toxic vibes, but the whole time they feel like people who are used to being in this situation and are pros. Two, I think it's important that you believe the chemistry between them as characters. You have to believe that they've been a team for a long time and that they care about each other. And I think that chemistry is really there and palpable. And I think it adds to the tension once bodies start to drop. And three, the third thing you have to believe is that despite being the most skilled killers in the world, they do not stand a chance against the Predator. Which is, again, what makes this movie so cool, is the first half of this movie is setting them up as the ultimate killing machines. And then the second half of the movie says, yeah, but they don't hold a candle to this thing. I think it's really fun, really spooky. And I love the switcheroo this movie pulls. And again, I think those are three things that I wanted to highlight. These guys are very believable in their roles. They have really great chemistry with each other to the point where you care about their characters getting out of there. Even Dylan, who's sort of duplicitous and backstabbing, you get to a point where you care about the fact that spoiler alert, that he dies. And I think all of it comes together really well. And the coolest part of it all is the Predator. Like, you come to care about the characters. It's kind of a bummer that they're dying. At the same time, you wouldn't have it any other way because the Predator is so damn cool. So there we go. In terms of just my couple bullet points about my critiques of the movie, I don't think I had anything new to say. I think you guys covered that. It's not a thinking man's movie, and sometimes they go a little overboard on the action. I mean, the scene where they just fire their guns into the jungle at nothing for like a solid 45 seconds. Yeah, that's pretty stupid, but it really like puts you in this weird frenzied state of mind where they're starting to kind of lose it. And yeah, at the end of the day, if you just go into the movie and have fun with it, if you go into the movie and go on the journey it's taking you on and let yourself have fun, I think you'll have fun with it. Now, let's be done talking about the movie in general, and it's time to get specific. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been a couple spoilers already, but from now on, if you're tuning in, you haven't seen Predator, and you think you might want to see it, go watch it right now, because we are going full spoilers from here on out. We're going to, in detail, start breaking this movie down and talking about how to survive it. And as always, we must start with the antagonist himself, the Predator. The jungle hunter, as the Predator from the first movie is referred to. You guys, I got a surprise for you boys. I have read some Predator comics. I got a little extra universe knowledge, and I'll try to pepper in some details as we go. And I'll start by letting you know that obviously Predator is just sort of a nickname. The actual alien species, I've heard it pronounced a couple of different ways. Some people pronounce it the Yautja, and some people pronounce it the Yachua. But that is the actual name of their species. They are the Yautja. So, little fact for you guys. So, this particular Yautja has been dubbed the Jungle Hunter. What do we think of him? Strengths, weaknesses? What do we want to call out about him right away?
Well, I'll just get the obvious ones out of the way. He's basically invisible. You can see his shape a little bit if you know what you're looking for, but he is really fast. He's really good at killing things really fast. And yeah, he's got not radar, what do you call it? Like thermo vision.
Heat vision.
He has a thermos. Yeah.
He's got a thermos and he drinks his smoothie out of it.
His protein to make sure he's keeping those alien gains up. It's not even like him doing his little crackle thing. It's just him shaking the bottle.
And he's big. He held
big.
Arnie up off his feet. That's a big guy.
Yeah. So obviously there are different subspecies of predator. According to the research I've done, the smallest subspecies of predators clock in at about 7 feet tall.
Holy. Whoa.
So even if you're facing off against a small guy, they're going to be about 7 feet tall.
Pretty big fella.
And those muscles too.
I know.
Really strong.
Somebody's been working out, bro.
Tossing those fish nets on him. Boy, oh boy, they knew what they were doing. Let me tell you.
Oh boy. I guess to go along with that, kind of the other side of the coin, as far as like a weakness that you could potentially, exploit, is that it seems like the predator species, when they hunt, they have sort of an honor system where they're not just going to kill anything. It's what they deem as worthy prey, as like, something that's going to give them a challenge in a fight. So, Anna, the woman in the film, Anna.
The one woman
in the entire film. The one of the
only
things.
Woman in the world in this movie. Sorry.
No need to apologize. But yeah, I mean, like with her.
So anyway, Adam, I was just thinking. No, sorry, I've interrupted Lanton like 3 times, and I had to do it one more time for the joke.
Anyway, so as I was saying, and what was very critical to the podcast, if you can get around the honor system and make the predator think that you're not a threat, then you have the ability to perhaps survive. Back to you guys.
This is, and you know what? Very good that he mentioned this, because as the three most average of Joes, putting ourselves in the position of this movie, I think we need to be honest with ourselves. Does the Predator even want us?
Probably not. I mean, if he's a trophy hunter, and we're thinking about this in terms of like, let's say elk, we're probably like just kind of the regular kind of sickly. We're not. I mean, compared to Arnie and the rest of the dudes in the '80s, we're not trophies by any means.
Fish in a
Yeah.
bucket.
Like,
Yep.
I know how to fire a gun, but I also don't own one. So like, I have trouble imagining there's a situation where the Predator sees me walking around with a gun and is like, aha.
What's that guy doing over there?
Instead, the Predator will see me and be like, no sport.
No sport. Leave him for. Leave that one. Go for the
Leave
big
that
ones.
one to be eaten by the plants.
I will say a weakness is really green glowy blood.
Yeah.
That is very easily traced. And
Very easy to track.
for a stealthy creature, that's a real bummer.
Yep.
I will say, I think something that occurred to me this time watching through is like a weakness is, with respect, Predator can't see for shit. Like,
No.
every
Terrible
time it
eyesight.
every time it cut to his vision, I was like, oh, okay, so like he can clearly see the like thermal outline of a person, but other than that, the jungle looks exactly the same to him. Like, it's a miracle. Like, it's a miracle he wasn't like falling on his face, tripping over every log in this movie. You know, like, the fact that they managed to trap him was not surprising when you realize that like all he's really good for is spotting trip wires that have a different like thermal signature and human bodies. Like, so I would definitely highlight that. And especially when he takes his mask off at the end, we get a look at like regular Predator vision, which is still to some degree thermal. And it was like, yeah, he still has terrible eyesight. Like, so much for the ultimate Predator. They can't see anything, man.
He really is like the fake dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, how they can't see you if you don't move. It's pretty much that. I mean, he does see the thermal, which I guess is a leg up, but when he didn't have the thermal and he's watching Arnie and Arnie was all mudded up, he could still see the movement. But if Arnie was just like standing there pretending to be a tree, there's no way he could, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, I see that as a big weakness as well.
And like, I mean, one of the famous quotes from this movie is, you know, if it bleeds, we can kill it. And the Predator is killable. Like, it bleeds. It's not something that's like invincible. You just have to deal with, there is a very distinct power disparity. This guy's tough. He is strong. He is fast. You know, Yautja culture literally trains them from birth to be hunters. That's like what their entire culture is built around. Meanwhile, our culture is built around raising us to be like, I don't know, hospital administrators or something dumb like that.
Who would do that?
And they raise us to like be a banker and work on tax favored health plans or some shit. So like, worth noting that this is like a culture, like hunting is their culture, and they take it very seriously. Obviously, we kind of have to only use the information contained in this movie. It's unfair for me to weigh in too much with information that exists outside of the sphere, but like, at the very least from this movie, you can tell like hunting is like the ultimate thing for this creature. It seems to be the one thing that it cares about. It wants a good hunt. And the only reason Anna is like precluded from anything is that she is not a good hunt at the end of the day. Because, you know, Predator is sexist for sure. Straight misogynist, I think it's fair to say. Has the Predator ever even killed a woman? Probably not.
Well, his name's
That's how much of a sexist he is. So.
Predator. I don't know. Anyways, I don't know where I was going with that.
Moving on, then.
I was doing a parallel with misogyny and predators. Anyways, what I will say, he was prepared for the fight. He had this little med kit in his little pouch thing, and he pressed a button. He's like, ooh, 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 and he's like, almost like he wanted that to happen. He's like, oh, time to sew my leg up, and he's like, yeah, this is a good fight. He was prepared. He was ready to bleed, and he was ready to shed blood. So I don't know. He was definitely 100 steps ahead of them most of the movie, because he was the only one who knew that it was just a hunt.
He's also in an interesting position in that he's clearly, like, not only is he prepared to bleed for this fight, he's prepared to die. Like, dying during a worthy fight to him is like a victory in and of itself. And, you know, big spoiler for the end here, and this seems to be common amongst all predators, but like, apparently they're like a race of sore fucking losers where it's like, oh, you beat me? Let me go ahead and just blow myself up.
Good luck.
Oh, you think you win? That's nice. Mushroom cloud. So it's like, and so like, and there's like a severe technological disadvantage we haven't really addressed either. Like, I mean, the plasma caster alone, like, aims with its little laser dots, fires a big old laser bolt at you. A laser bolt big enough to basically make Jesse the Body Ventura have no body afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, his entire chest cavity gone. And, you know, the wrist gauntlet is another classic weapon from this movie. There are other weapons that are kind of revealed throughout the series, but in terms of like the iconic ones, there's the plasma shoulder caster, and there's the wrist blades. Is there another weapon he used prominently in this movie that I'm forgetting?
He just has like claw-like fingers. I'm trying to remember if he used that or if he just used it to grab people, but I don't remember. It was a weapon.
Definitely something to consider, because it's definitely something that's weaponized in other movies in the franchise.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And also, like, it kind of takes them a while to really figure out his deal because he moves through the trees. And like, almost half of their battle with him, they don't realize that he's not moving on the ground. And I feel like that's a huge thing where that's hard to figure out, especially with the level of camo he's working with, you know, camouflage. I mean, I know you guys are civilians and you wouldn't understand this term, but camo is short for camouflage.
Really?
Is that a French term?
God, you wish, for Lapin's sake. But I don't know, it's sort of interesting. Like, he's working with some very distinct advantages for sure. Not immortal, but like, the game is pretty intensely rigged in his favor from the get-go.
This is one of those comments that's on both sides of the creature, and a negative on one side, positive on one side. Just their ignorance to the entire situation, which is kind of what we talked about. But to generalize it, if they knew from the beginning what was going on, they probably would have had a better chance. Obviously, once Arnie figured out what was going on, he had a lot better chance. So I think the mystery, the surprise attack, all of that stuff was one of his biggest advantages, was just that they were thinking it was men with guns, and if you think you're shooting a man with a gun and it's a predator, you're gonna die. So the expectations that they had, that was their biggest weakness, I think, and his biggest strength.
Sure. I mean, yeah, like, what's his name? Hawkins. He didn't even know that there was something out there trying to kill them until he was dead.
Yeah, there's no avoiding that.
Yeah, Jesse Ventura like knew someone was out there, but he didn't know there was an alien.
Yeah, right.
It's his death that kind of makes people start to say, like, this thing might not be human. So like, definitely not a good sense of what they're up against, for sure.
And he's, I mean, even when you know what's going on, he's still a real son of a bitch. You know, he's still hard, but yeah. I think that still is one of in this movie, at least one of the biggest advantages, or advantages of him.
Well, and it's sort of interesting too, because like even as they start to get a sense of what this guy's deal is, he doesn't necessarily let you like redefine the game, you know? Because Billy does stop on the bridge and goes like, "This guy's a hunter. He wants like this is a game of honor for him." And Billy's going, "I'm going to face off against him alone," and like that'll give them time to escape because this guy's going to entertain like an honorable man-to-man fight. And the Predator apparently is just like, nah, and just kills him. It like he saves the one-on-one man-to-man honorable fight for Arnold after like Dutch proved that he was worthy in the Predator's eyes. So like that's sort of an interesting thing too, which is like even if you're kind of trying to change the game like Billy did, and you go, I think I have a sense of what your deal is, like maybe that'll win some respect from the Predator, but he's not going to let you redefine the game. He's going to call the shots. It isn't a one-on-one honorable fist fight until the Predator says it's an honorable one-on-one fist fight.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Damn, I think he's right.
Wow, he's on to something.
I think I will say, 2 big advantage is the setting. Trees, not a lot of people around. If this was, I don't know what the future movies are. I have no idea what this franchise is. But if there's the Predator takes Manhattan, I feel like he would.
Yeah, imagine the Predator in Los Angeles. You know, like how would that
a
work?
heat wave. I wonder what that would be like.
How would that even work?
And then you got the guy from one of the dudes from. Never mind. I'm blanking on the name. Never mind.
It would have gone over my head. I don't know.
We'll get
Lethal
some Bill
Weapon.
Paxton in there.
Yep.
Definitely some Gary Busey.
The jungle, I think, is probably the best setting for him to be the best. Again, from my ignorance to the rest of the franchise for this movie, I'll say, yeah, if this guy's anywhere else, it's probably not going to be as good, especially if there isn't stuff up above. If it's all groundwork, that's a tough.
Yeah, like how would he do in like Sheboygan?
Just running through a bunch of cornfields.
Yeah, very flat, nonstop cornfields. See, blending in okay? No, I think he feels very in his element, which is so interesting considering that this is not his world.
Yeah.
So I do think that's a profound point, and like it kind of sucks too because the jungle, like you guys have seen Planet Earth, like the jungle's just like so deadly anyway.
Yeah,
like you touch one plant you're not supposed to, and you're gonzo. And now you have to add in some freaking alien who seems to navigate the jungle better than you. Like not fair, you know. I don't know. I feel like we're starting to slow down on things to say about the Predator. So obviously the door will always be open to make comments on the Predator if we have further insights. But I feel like just naturally going by vibe alone, it's time to move on to sort of the next section of our podcast, the next session of our podcast. See you next time, guys. Good night. No. The next section of our podcast, of course, is where we focus in on our protagonist. So Dutch Schaefer and his team of elite. He describes them as a rescue squad. He insists that they are not assassins, even though they are very, very good at killing.
Yeah.
But this squad of commandos that end up being dropped into a meat grinder and they have to face off against this deadly alien creature. What do we think of their decisions? Do we think they approach things in a smart way? Do we feel like there's improvement to be made? How do we feel about these guys?
To be general, biggest advantage is probably pectoral muscles.
Yes.
Go on about that, please.
You know, the kind that they're wearing a shirt, but you still can see every single contour and line and curve. That's a real advantage in my head.
I mean, that is like there is not an out of shape person in this movie. Even fucking Shane Black, who in real life is like a little writer, director nerd, in this movie, he clearly put some effort into being in shape.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it might have been Lanson who said this, but I think it's very true. To be serious now, the movie really sells that these guys are good. And I think even though we'll talk about decisions they make that I think are dumb, it still shows that these guys, if they're fighting against humans, they're good. They're gonna survive. They're gonna wipe the floor with them. Their traps that they set and their
the
strategies.
4-minute shooting sequence like definitely sells. They know how to kill dudes.
Yeah, I know, right?
They can pepper a forest floor, that's for sure. So
yeah,
they're able.
Yes, they are. Yeah, and I mean, I guess what eventually Dutch, what ended up being his saving grace was relying on his training and being able to adapt to different situations, being able to think on his feet with the whole mud thing to understand that the predator couldn't see him, and then trying to use that to his advantage. Even like at the final showdown, he understood that the predator could see in heat, so to draw it out, he made this really huge fire. And yeah, so I mean, I feel like as far as decisions, I feel like Adam brought up a good point when we're talking about the predators, that they really are caught by surprise. I mean, like, how could you even fathom like being hunted by an alien? You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
at least in the first portion of the movie, it's kind of hard to pin down like a decision. Yeah. I feel like I was going to say something else, but I forgot about it. So if I remember it, I'll interject, but I'll open up the floor again.
Well, and going back to like, there are 3 different booby trapping like montages during this movie. So first they set like regular booby traps, so like this would fool most people. That doesn't work. And they immediately learn from that and they go, okay, we have to make booby traps that blend into the jungle environment. And they even have the thought of like, oh, you know what? This guy's moving through the trees. So then they make traps that'll function for somebody coming from the trees and will blend into the jungle environment. That does work, but it escapes very quickly and everything goes to shit really fast. And then the third time, like you said, Dutch is like, okay, so we need, I got to make sure that it can't see me. He seems to be able to figure out that it seems to be thermal based on the fact that it couldn't see him when he was covered in the cold mud. So then he starts relying on how do I change the thermal landscape to my advantage? How do I make these big explosions of heat that'll sort of temporarily blind the predator and use that against it, cover myself in the mud, and then his booby traps are really like honing in on everything he's learned about the predator. Even like the final section, basically, he sets 2 booby traps where he's like lying in that little gulch, right? And he's like, and as it descends upon me to kill me, it can either come from this way or it can come from this way. It can't come from anywhere else. I set a booby trap each side. So it's like it's extremely well planned and it evolves. They're willing to like go, hey, that didn't work. We have to try something different. And then they're able to figure out like, okay, that element of it worked. That didn't. Let's refine a little more. So, even just something as simple as like you might think to scrap and try a whole new approach after the second booby trapping sequence goes so wrong. But Dutch is smart enough to know, like, oh, you know what? Blending it into the jungle environment was exactly what we needed to do. But we also need to take things a step further. We need to do this. We need to do this, and that'll take us places. That'll take us to the climax of this movie. And so he was very aware that he was in a movie, in case you didn't know. I will say, in terms of like places to start criticizing people, I really love the character of Mac, and I believe the actor's name is Bill Duke. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Anybody
Yep.
remember Bill Duke?
Yep.
He's phenomenal in this movie. I will say, and this is actually a credit to the movie, that we see one of these tough commando guys really start to crack under the fear and the pressure and the grief and just everything happening. We see a guy start to crack. But like there's a psychological component to this as well. And Mac, he falls apart. And he and Dylan pay the price because he loses it, man. He goes completely crazy. I don't know how running into the jungle singing Long Tall Sally or whatever that song is, whatever Little Richard song they were listening to. I don't think running into the jungle loudly singing that is the way to get the drop on the predator.
Yeah.
It's also the scene, that great scene before it where they show he's losing it because he's doing that thing he always does where he's shaving his skin, but he ends up just like pressing the blade into his flesh until he bleeds and the razor breaks. Really giving you a window into like, this guy is not doing okay.
This guy's not okay.
Something bad is happening upstairs. So I feel like that's another thing too, is we have to acknowledge that there's a psychological component to this, and Mac totally folds under the pressure and makes some really dumb decisions and pays the price. So yeah, just we talked a lot about, wow, these guys are good. I wanted to highlight in one capacity in which they were not very good.
Dude, this isn't a comment so much about like decisions of the heroes, just something I think is always funny in Arnie movies. Like they're like, yeah, we're a bunch of special operations soldiers from America, but then they're like, oh yeah, and Arnie, he's also an American. It's like,
Yeah, for sure,
okay.
an American.
I know it's kind of like the same thing in like Jingle All the Way, where they're like, man, what an average American dad, and it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're like, uh-huh. So
no references to him being a behemoth of a man.
yeah,
with
I
a
know.
slightly too small head.
Yeah. So anyway, just something I always find funny when they're like, yes, we're a bunch of American soldiers. We love the motherland of America.
And the funny thing is, like, they do such a good job. This is a bit tangential, but when they're flying in on the chopper, they do a really good job of kind of establishing what is unique about every member of the platoon, except for Dutch. He seems to just like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I will say Hawkins is not a particularly standout character. He's a little bit forgettable. He would be a lot more memorable if they mourned his death at all, because they spend like a whole night crying about Jesse Ventura, but they don't seem to notice it at all when Hawkins dies. So like, what the fuck happened there? But like, you know, quickly like, oh, okay, he's the communications guy and he tells dirty jokes. Billy is very quickly like, oh, he's a talented tracker and like probably the best tracker in the world. And Poncho very quickly, you're like, he's the demolitions guy. So you have just like such an immediate sense of like, who are these people? What are they good at? What role do they fill in this team? And then Dutch is there and you're like, I guess he's the leader. Like, you know, like he's not particularly stand out, but he does end up kind of like outsmarting things in the end. So I again, like speaking to like, okay, so we're pretending Arnold Schwarzenegger is American. Also cut to like, we're pretending that he's leading a team of specialists, but he doesn't seem to have any special skills whatsoever.
Yeah.
I will say, I think his leadership decisions were a couple things I was going to bring up out of context of what you're saying, but actually leads into it, where a couple decisions he makes where immediately he's like, we're not going to run. We're going to figure this out. Because if we like run to the chopper, then we're all going to die. And they kind of end up running anyways. But I think his thing was like, we have a problem. We're going to figure it out. We're going to get rid of the problem. And then we're going to go. Is very against what a lot of horror movies do, where they're just like, get me out of here. And then they're not thinking and they're not being, you know. And another decision where he's like, we got to bring everyone together. He cuts the hand ties of the girl and he's like, if we're going to he didn't say this, but the idea is like, hey, if we're gonna get through this, we've got to be a team, and like we're all getting hunted here. We're all on the same thing. What's his name? Carl Weathers had
Dylan.
beef with them.
Dylan.
Dylan, but while they're getting hunted by the predator, they're all coming together, and they're all now, the beef. There's a bigger problem. So I think that kind of those decisions, that leadership, I think did kind of go against what a lot of the bad things with horror movies. So even though they were in the dark, he did have those. I think at the end, which still was a lot of smart moves. There were still a couple times where I was like, man, on both the side of the evil thing and on Arnie's side, but I get the side of the evil thing makes a little more sense. I was like, man, these guys got to learn to double tap. He's like, oh, big rock hit it. I'm gonna be tired, and then it ends up a fucking nuclear explosion. He could have just killed it. I don't know. I guess he was like, what did he ask it? Like, what the hell are you? Or something. And I was like, I don't know if that was worth asking. I don't think it's gonna answer. I think you should have just got it with the rock. I don't know. But
he fully puts the rock down too. Like, he's like,
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about this.
I need to question this. I need to get some intel first. It's like, we're not waterboarding this guy. It doesn't speak our language. We just kill it. So I don't know. Could have avoided a big old explosion that could have just wiped him out. But good thing he's a fast runner, I guess.
I will say, not to be the guy who criticizes the one woman in this film, but it's sort of a failure on all sides to communicate. One, she does not really seem to care that much about trying to communicate to the guys about what's happening.
Yeah.
Two, whenever they try to ask her like what's going on, she answers and then they just like disregard her answer.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Like, I don't know. She said the jungle. Yeah, like she said the jungle came alive and took him. I don't know. She's crazy. Anyway,
let's just shoot some more stuff, bro.
Let's shoot out into the jungle uninterrupted for 45 seconds. Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of interesting. I will say, like, I do kind of like that they dig in and they say, like, we're going to take care of this problem. But also there comes a point where you're like, maybe they should have just been friggin' booking it for the evac zone and getting out of there, because
right. Yeah.
I feel like there has to come a point where you realize, like, we are so outmaneuvered. Our best option is just getting the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But at any rate, kind of feels like we've kind of run our course. We talked about the decisions. These guys made pretty smart decisions throughout. I think it might be time to beeline directly into our final segment. This is the main event, what everybody is here for, everybody's favorite part. I want to know, outside of Dutch, who is your favorite character?
I probably have to say Jesse Ventura. I love his lines, dude. Just ain't got time to bleed. Turn you into a sexual tyrannosaurus.
He is the textbook, like, toxically masculine douchebag, and he's way too good at it.
I know.
Adam, where are you at? Who did you like?
I don't know. I feel like I have the disadvantage where I haven't watched it as many times as you guys. So even now, I'm like, I don't remember. Some characters are kind of melding together, Like, I don't know. I don't have that great of a memory, but yeah. I don't know. They were good.
I don't know. Back to you.
I really liked. This isn't gonna answer your question, but I liked the scene where the dude sees the laser pointer. He's like, "What is that?" And he looks through it. And he gets shot in the head. I liked that guy because that was such a stupid decision. But
well, that's also the same guy who's like stripping off his clothes. I'm gonna have some fun. I'm gonna have some fun. Running into the
like
jungle.
You said, I guess it makes sense given the character, but I thought he was fun because I was like, oh, this guy's gonna get wrecked. I know exactly what's in it. It's like, boom.
Yeah, this guy's gonna fall apart. No, yeah, that head explosion is great. Yeah, I mean, I love Billy the Tracker. What an incredible, like, charismatic, cool character. I also personally always feel like Poncho is underrated. I feel like he's super cool. very badass in his own right. And honestly, like I hate the way he goes out in this movie. Like he deserved better.
Yep.
All of that aside, now it's time to take my job seriously and transition us into the actual final segment of this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we talk about giving ourselves final boy and final girl status. And we may not give ourselves those. Who knows? But essentially, these categories, to explain them a little further, final boy means you're no dummy. You make it through a good chunk of the movie. You do a pretty good job holding your own, but you just don't have that last 10% of what it means to get across the finish line, and you die in this movie. Traditionally, the final boy death is usually the very last death of the movie. So we're kind of theorizing that we get through a good chunk of this movie, but we're maybe the last person to get out alive. Final girl status is the person who gets away from this movie, and they even defeat the villain. In this case, Arnold Schwarzenegger is our final girl, even though there's technically a final girl in this movie as well, and Anna. They are both the final girl. And so I'm going to kick it over to my friend Adam Bone. He's going to tell us how he's feeling. Can he make final boy status and final girl status? And if so, what's his plan to get out of here? Get out of the jungles of the fictional country of Valverde.
Great question. I am going to give myself final boy status in that this is what I usually do. I put myself in the character's shoes. This one's tough because we like to approach it as we're average Joes, but it's hard to say I'm an average Joe, but I'm putting myself in the shoes of these characters who are way above average. So I'm gonna kind of do a mixture where I'm put in the shoes, but I'm not good at fighting or anything at all. However, the other guys are so good at fighting that the Predator doesn't even notice me. It's just like, ooh, these guys. And so that's how I'm making final boy status, is just purely from the other guys being badasses, and the Predator's like, I'm fucking with these guys. I'm not. He doesn't even see me. But those guys slowly get picked off, and now it's just me and Arnie. And I make final girl status, and I'm gonna tell you how.
Boom.
I kill
Play it
Arnie.
down for us.
I kill Arnie.
It's a strong opening move.
He's staring at the jungle with his face, and I stab him in the back. And the Predator watches me do it. And the Predator was about to come attack us, and he's like, what the heck? They're killing each other. And I slowly, this is going to be a little graphic, I start to skin him alive. And I show the Predator that I, too, am a predator. Not like physically, but you know, we kind of do the same thing. Me and him are on the same side. I kill the guys he wanted to kill, and I did it for him. And I'm like, look, this is my trophy now. And then there's some mutual respect. The Predator turns around, goes off into the woods, and never forgets about me, the one human that showed him that, you know, he wasn't a savage, that I respected his culture, and I did a thing to show him my respect.
This is a real Saint Lathan and Alien versus Predator move.
That's amazing. I love that, Adam. I also just picture this scene where, like, you cut out Dutch's liver, you take a bite, and you're like, you want some of this, man? Like, you want to share some
You
of
want
this?
it on this?
Like doing the horse thing where I'm like, you know, I'm like palm open. He'll let him approach me.
Exactly.
Takes a little bit. You hit him on the head. Yeah.
Good job, buddy.
Oh my gosh. The song "Don't You Forget About Me" plays while he walks into the jungle.
And just before he vanishes in his camouflage, he does the Breakfast Club fist pump.
That's amazing. I love that.
Adam, I gotta be honest, I did not foresee you giving yourself final girl status for this movie, and I love that you did. So glad you made it through to the end, and you did it while being, you know, culturally respectful, which is a beautiful thing, I think, in its own regard.
It's a big deal.
You really just gotta have empathy for the other side.
Yeah,
you gotta understand that sometimes hunting, it's a culture, and when people go to Africa to shoot big game, like that's just their culture, and we have to respect that. Definitely not a thing we should be trying to stop at all. Definitely not a sign that they're a millionaire douchebag. It's just a sign that culturally they're on a different level than us, you know? Lanson, I'm really curious. Final boy, final girl status. How are you feeling about this? What's your plan to navigate these treacherous waters?
Boom. So I am giving myself final girl status, and let me tell you how. Okay, so
He's like, I'm not even talking about final boy status. Shut up about that.
forget it, bro. We ain't going for no second place. I'm not going to be first place loser. I'm going for the gold. This is America in the 80s, bro.
And you're a sexual tyrannosaurus.
I'm a sexual tyrannosaurus. I got that long cut tobacco, bro. So yeah, I would like to shed light. You talk about a lot of different specialists, a lot of different jobs in special operations, but one that is an unsung hero of special operations is a special operations cook. I mean, a lot of people think you're just heating up MREs, putting some water in them, and you're good to go. That's not the truth. That's for the average everyday soldier. But when you want to have the best of the best, you got to feed them the best of the best. How do you think they maintain their mass? They're not just eating like freaking, I don't know, like beef jerky and like string cheese. Although we do have that on the menu when we go out. Like to keep a variety. But that's
something
not
for
the
when
only
you're hiking.
thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're known by many names: the Gravy Seals, the Green Beignets, Meal Team 6. But you know, we like to refer to ourselves.
Lanson, how long did you spend prepping those names?
I think I heard it. I know I heard Meal Team 6, but then in the shower this morning, I was like, that's funny. Like, what are some other names we can come up with? And so I was like, Green Beignet.
Those are pretty good. Those are
Gravy
great.
Seal. So anyway, but we like to think of ourselves as the quiet professionals that, you know, sometimes we have to snap some necks. Sometimes we got to chop some onions. You got to be versatile. So anyway,
the greatest ad I've ever heard.
I know, right, man? The fruit, the few, the proud, the delicious.
Maybe I should join. Maybe I should join the army.
I'm telling you, man, it's pretty
Setting
good.
up the
It's pretty
Gravy
good.
Seals.
The Gravy Seals. So, number one, because I'm a cook and because I'm cooking so much, the predator's gonna think, oh, this guy's lame. He just like cooks a pot of chili and stuff and like whatever, dude.
Yeah.
But
we know he's a chauvinist, so he's like, this guy's doing a woman's job. Like,
exactly. He's like, he's doing the woman's work. Like, what kind of a hunter is that? So like he's no sport in that. So anyway, but also I do have that special operations training. So, you know, I'm taking note of what's going on. I'm trying to feed the guys, console them at a dark time with a good, you know, good meal. We have lasagna sometimes, especially when Jesse Ventura died.
Jungle.
In the jungle, man. You got to pack it in, bro. You got to, I mean, I make my own noodles. It's a whole thing. We're the best of the best. What can I say? So what ends up happening? We get to the end. Arnie tells me his plan. He's like, all right, this is what we need to do. I'm like, that's stupid. We're not doing that. So what we do is instead is we use our cooking materials. So we get a big old pot of chili, you know, giving off a lot of heat, draw the predator in, but we make sure we have a butt ton of gravy because we didn't end up using it for biscuits and gravy that morning. So we just cover ourselves in that. Predator can't see us. So, you know, he's coming on through and I just say, hey man, why don't you sit down for a pot of chili? You know, you're a warrior. You've been working hard. When's the last time you ate something? So he's like, you know what? Fair enough. Obviously, he probably doesn't say that because I don't speak, you know, his language, but I get the gist. So he sits down to a nice pot of chili. We have a good talk, but little does he know, I've put C4 and horse laxative in that bad boy. So his whole internal organs are just going to be messed up. So his butt is doing a spit take all over the jungle and he's just squealing out. And I'm just like, you know what, Dutch, see how easy that was? We didn't even have to lay a finger on the guy. But then, of course, I'm always packing. So I carry out my 1911 sidearm and I go up behind him. And I'm like, this is the merciful thing to do. This is not how a warrior should go out, just crapping all over the jungle floor. So I just cap him a couple times in the head, you know, and we enjoy a nice pot of chili. And then we just the next morning, after we get a good night's rest, we go on to the landing zone, and we make our way out of the jungle. So, due to the culinary arts as well as, well, I guess tactical cooking, I'm able to make it out.
Boom. Shamalim.
Wow.
I was just imagining the whole time he's going full diarrhea on the jungle floor that's also like glow in the dark green.
Exactly. It's like you just murdered a glow stick, bro.
Just imagining like, how are we supposed to track him? And he's like invisible, but there's just a trail of like just a fountain.
Where is he? He's in the trees.
Just an unholy rain of glow in the dark green fluids emitting out from like midair, like it's invisible, but just a stream, and you're like, well, it's originating there, clearly. Hand me the sniper rifle. Let's put this guy out of his misery.
I imagine like an action movie moment, and Arnie gets like a cool line where someone's like, "It's raining," and he like, "That's not rain." That's a pretty good line for that situation, It's shit.
Yeah.
That's a pretty one.
We have to run. He seems like he has the runs.
Oh,
We got him on the runs now.
Lanson's
baby.
he's got the puns today, man.
He's got puns for days, baby. Well, let me tell you, gentlemen, I'm going to give myself final boy status.
Nice.
And I'm going to go a little further, and I'm going to give myself final girl status. How will I do it, you're wondering? Thank you for asking. First of all, I am putting myself into this situation imagining that I am Spooky Lukey Haueter. I am not specialized in any way. I'm not army trained in any way. I am just me. But just because there's no sport in killing me doesn't mean I can't be the mastermind of one guy's demise. Of one predator's demise, excuse me. So I imagine it goes down like this, right? They go out into the middle of the jungle, and for plot reasons, I'm there. I'm very lost. I've been doing a backpacking trip through South America. It is going really bad. And they go, we better take this guy with us. Now, they're a little busy carrying out their little mission to stop Russian insurgents, ? That part of the plot is incredibly unclear to me and also alarming if you think about it for too long. They carry through that, but while they're distracted by that, I get the chance to kind of have a look around and go, there's this weird shimmering thing with glowing eyes hopping from tree to tree, kind of keeping an eye on everybody. That feels weird, but I guess we'll see what happens. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do to save Hawkins. We're going to miss his jokes about women with big vaginas, but sometimes the team's got to take a couple cuts. Unfortunately, there isn't much we can do to save Jesse Ventura either. But after the death of Hawkins, I'm thinking, you know what? That might be that weird, creepy thing that's been following us around for a while. And then when Jesse Ventura dies and we have some suspicions confirmed and we start to go, no, this thing is not of this world, I start to form a little plan, you see, because we notice he always comes back for the body. And we have Jesse the Body Ventura still with us. We pack that thing. We packed just so much C4 up Jesse Ventura's ass. Like the amount of C4 it would take to destroy a small village in Guatemala, which the CIA was also interested in asking us to do. But we said, no, thanks. We're a rescue team, not assassins.
Mm-hmm.
But you brought the C4 anyways,
You got it.
Got to have it on you. Got to be packing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, Mac, look away. Go shave your incredibly bald face again. And we just pack that C4 up there, and we wait. We wait for the predator to come get it. And then we just go ahead and there is no life left on the jungle floor when we're done with this predator. Talk about raining like green fluids. It will be raining the predator's blood down upon this jungle. And then not only do we get away scot-free with most of the team, including my boy Poncho, get out of there alive. Poncho's probably the one packing the C4. He's a demolitions expert.
Yep.
Not only do most of us get alive, we get to go claim a couple trophies because something tells me that those plasma caster, the wrist blades, something tells me those might have survived the C4 explosion. We go track them down, we bring them home with us, and we advance the great mission of the U.S. military during the Cold War. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I turn the tide in this man versus alien battle.
And
My
man
apologies
versus
to
man battle too. Sounds like.
My apologies to Jesse Ventura's character, but he died as he lived. A sexual Tyrannosaurus with something up his ass. And gentlemen, that is how I am getting out of Predator alive. And that is one of the rare occurrences where all three of us give ourselves final girl status. Round of applause for us. Round of applause for us. Thank you, listeners at home, for clapping. I know you were doing it.
In all reality, I would die in this movie. I just want to make that clear. But I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm so dead.
Yeah.
I'd live.
Yeah,
I know. Actually, I would also live because no sport. no
sport.
You think he's looking at blue-haired little me and going like, I gotta get that on the mantle.
Oh.
That weird noise it makes every time it goes to Predator vision.
Sounds like it's slapping outside a beef.
I swear some of the sound effects towards the end of Arnie and the Predator punching each other are just the same sound effect they use for Predator vision. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting down to the very end of our season. We have one final episode for season 3. We're closing out strong. I don't want to give away too much, but this is going to be an interesting one. This movie was not chosen by any of the three of us. It was chosen by a special guest or guests who will be joining us next time. So for those of you listening, I forget the exact date that this particular episode is coming out. But next Monday happens to be Halloween, the 31st. As always, we are dropping our final episode of the season on Halloween, so keep an eye out for that. If you want to try to look up the movie in the next couple of days and get it watched before the episode drops, the movie we are covering that was chosen by our special guest and or guests is, funny enough, a movie called The Host. Now, you guys may remember earlier this season, we covered a movie called The Host as chosen by Adam Bone.
Are we doing The Host again?
We are not doing The Host again. What I'm telling you guys is, during this season, we have quickly discovered there's like a million movies called The Host.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So there was the movie in 2006, The Host, a brilliant Korean film, which we discussed. There's a movie from 2013 called The Host, which is a Stephenie Meyer adaptation.
Wait, we're doing the Stephenie Meyer's adaptation?
We are not doing the bibbity boppity boo of Stephenie Meyer.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know there was another host. I'm gonna be honest, so I'm interested
didn't
in
either.
this.
I think there may actually be like 4 or 5 movies called The Host. We are specifically looking at a movie called The Host. This one is from 2020.
Oh, okay. Well, quick correction. This movie is called Host. Is that the one? It's 57 minutes long.
That's right. It's very short. That was the main thing I remember.
So it's
I'm
called
also
Host.
Googling it.
There's no the.
Just
Just to help the listeners find it. Okay.
Just to totally
Host.
demean Luke on the podcast.
No, not to put you down. I just want everyone to find
Please
it.
put him down. Please put him down.
Oh, is this
Nope, he's right.
the Zoom call horror movie?
Yep.
Oh, I've heard about this
Interesting.
one.
I've actually heard about it talked very highly, and I'm really interested to give it a look.
Yeah, for sure.
As Adam said, very short runtime. It is 57 minutes long, which is incredibly short for a movie. So if you guys want to set aside an hour, check it out before next Monday. We're going to drop our final episode of the season then. And as always, we'll take a little bit of break, do some planning in the off season, and maybe we'll be back for season 4. We'll see how it goes. We have to go through a lot of contract negotiations before we can say that for sure.
Yeah, Adam, it's not cheap to keep Adam Bone on the podcast. I'll tell you that much, bro. Spotify's
since
been
he
trying
blew
to
up
get him
on-
for a long time.
Yeah, not since he blew up on TikTok. It's been real hard to keep going
Jeez.
on this pod.
Once everybody found out about Shadow Dude, like, game over for this podcast.
Yeah, no, for real. The amount of money we've had to give Adam Bone just to keep him from going to work with Jordan Peele.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Well, that's all that
You're
like, yeah.
It's all that needs to be said. Well, gents, that's where we're at. I've told the audience what we're doing for our final episode that is coming out in just a couple of days on Halloween Day, October 31st. But as far as what I personally have going on, you can always track me down. I'm at Luke Haueter across all social media. LUKEHAUETER. I would say keep an eye on my Twitter. That's a good way to know what I'm up to. You can also check me out on Twitch or TikTok. I'll try to stream on Twitch, post stuff on TikTok. You can check me out on Instagram too. I get up to stuff. I make stuff and I try to have some fun. So come see what I'm up to, baby. Lanson, do you have anything you would like to plug? Anything you'd like for our listeners at home to know about?
Yes. This podcast, Final Boy Status.
Shocker.
I know, right? So surprising. Brought it right out of the woodwork.
Mystery.
Because not only, I mean, obviously we've done 3 seasons. So if you've been following along with this season, feel free to go back and, kind of listen to our first 2. We appreciate the listens. We appreciate the support. And, honestly, it's just fun to have an excuse to get together as friends and talk about something that we're passionate. So hopefully you guys enjoy that as well. And yeah, we'll see you potentially next season.
Rock and roll. Adam, you got any plugs? Anything you want to tell the lovely listeners at home?
Creatively, I really only do stuff on Twitch. Indie Adam Bones. That's Indie Adam Bones. I looked it up this time because last time I had no idea if there was an underscore or anything. No underscore, no capitals, all one word, no spaces. We do these in advance, so this is probably not going on, but I'm starting a philosophy Minecraft series, and if that sounds interesting to you, you should come check it out. It's called Minecraft to Midnight.
Like Linkin Park's Minutes to Midnight.
Yeah, but Minecraft to Midnight.
So it's Linkin Park, but in Minecraft?
It is not Linkin Park at all, actually, in any way.
Okay, but how involved is Mike Shinoda?
He doesn't know it exists, or that I exist, for that matter.
Well, that's not true. We all know he's a massive Shadowed fan.
Yeah. He helped with the score, actually. It was really nice of him.
Yeah, real shout out to Mike Shinoda. Oh boy. Well, I think that's it, lads. Yeah, I if we have anything emotional to say, we should do it now, so we're not emotional in front of our guests. Thank you to anybody that's been with us for all 3 seasons. Thank you for anybody that's joined us along the way. Making this show is one of the most fun parts of my life. Happy to have some folks along for the ride here, and no matter what happens, we will see you when we see you.